Welcome. It's lovely to have you along on another episode of Andy's Aviation Tech Talk. This morning we are going to be talking to what I call the tip of the spear, the avionics trade. They are the future of aviation, and that's not to belittle the engine and airframe people that we've already spoken to. But whenever you come across any news issue or anything of that nature, they'll always talk about the communications in the aeroplane, the avionics, what went wrong, and if an aeroplane was tracked or not. And so avionics is a very, very important part of aviation and aviation maintenance there. So let me introduce you to Mitch. He is a first-year apprentice, about to go into his second year. And so welcome, Mitch.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm excited to have you along this morning, Mitch, because as I said, I believe it is the tip of the spear, should I say, in aviation. So let's start with your trade so far. What have you been doing so far in your trade?
Well, in my first year, I started with theory. For the first 10 months was all theory.
Was all theory, okay.
All theory.
And so you went to the Aviation Academy.
Well, yeah.
Okay, what did you learn in the Aviation Academy?
It was exactly what it says. It was basic training. So basics from your basic maths, basic physics, into basic electronics, and then as the year went on, more aviation, airplane focused stuff, like your autopilot, the basics of your autopilot, the basics of your communications, wavelengths, all those things on a basic level.
Okay, what type of maths and physics did you do?
It wasn't particularly difficult maths. It was around grade 10, grade 11 maths. The only new maths that was taught realistically that we didn't do in school was your binary, octal and hexadecimal systems.
Me not being an avionics person and a physics person there, I must admit you just spoke a little bit above my head. But that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you've actually done that. That's fine. Did you find that difficult?
No, I had a background in it before. I've done a bit of
computer
science before. So.
Oh, okay. You had a background in that, because that is basically computers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the language of computers.
It's the language of computers. So you having a little bit of knowledge in computers has helped you.
Yeah. By far, especially with everything going into being single computers in the plane. I mean, we have the Embraer 190 at Airlink, and each of the VHF, like your VHF box, is a single card about that thick that you just pull out.
Right.
And so everything is a computer.
Everything is a computer then. That's really interesting. Were there people in your class that battled with that who hadn't done that?
Oh, yes,
deeper
100%, yeah.
So would you recommend, if you're going to go into avionics, that you concentrate on maths and avionics, physics?
I wouldn't recommend that it be
cool.
something that, it definitely helps to have it at school and to have decent marks at school for those subjects. Like I said, it is the basics, so if you didn't do it in school, you could pick it up in the short time you do the module.
Yeah. So
if you are mathematically inclined, you'll be able to pick it up.
If you're mathematically inclined, okay, that's actually really interesting to know, and it's right down the line that I'm actually trying to talk upon. Telling people, that if you in avionics, you do need that maths, you do need that physics, because without it, you will struggle a little bit. A little bit. I'm not saying you
luckily,
can't do it, but a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you. But luckily, with the equipment that we have now, the calculations that you would have had to have done maybe 10 years ago are a lot less. I mean, if you look at your pitot-static testing equipment we have now what's called the DPS 1000. If you compare that to the DPS 350, you're having to do your calculations for your pressures and that, whereas now you just put in, I want 5,000 feet of elevation, and it does it for you.
Okay, you just spoke a little bit of real technical stuff there. Just explain what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, but for the viewer?
DPS 1000 is just it's basically a vacuum box that pushes air into your pitot-static system to simulate elevation or airspeed. That's basically what it does.
Okay, right. Okay, that's important there. Have you done many pitot-static tests?
Not of the same type, but we've used that equipment about 5 or 6 times for overpressurization relief devices, so your outflow valves. We've done leak tests on the pitot-static system itself, and then just your regular, I'm telling the box that I'm flying like this, is the plane telling me I'm flying at that speed as well.
Fantastic.
I'm not exactly sure of the test's name on that one.
Okay, it is a pedostatic test, and you are testing the pedo system, making sure that your airspeed indicator is indicating the same.
Yeah, I
as what
believe it is an airspeed functional test. Yeah.
airspeed functional test. Yeah. Yeah, there are many different tests that you actually do on the aeroplanes. There, hundreds,
Oh, yeah.
hundreds. Okay, have you had an opportunity yet to get your mind around the wiring manuals of the aeroplane?
Yes, actually, we had a plane that was about to fly and had a fuel temperature valve issue, and we spent a good 3 days looking at wiring manuals, and over those 3 days I kind of got the hang of it, and that it wasn't something we were explicitly taught, but I mean, if you're looking at it for a while, you do start seeing what the qualified guys are looking for in the manual.
Okay, that's interesting. So if you had to say to someone who's actually watching now and they're involved in training there, would you recommend that wiring manuals are included in your in the academy and wiring diagrams?
Not necessarily in the academy.
Point that you brought up, that wasn't taught in the academy, but you saying that you spent 3 days on a single snag defect and being deeply entrenched into the wiring manuals, that just shows me what an important part the wiring manuals are. And the ability to understand the wiring manuals and navigate your way around them.
Yeah. Your wiring manuals as well as fault isolation manuals.
Fault isolation.
We use those quite a bit as well.
That's really interesting that you find that. I'm glad that you're using those as well, because using your fault isolation manual means that you are not
you're just guessing where the snag is.
Just guessing where the snag is. You're doing a methodical search for the defect. That's good. That's really good that you're doing that, and it's part of you finding that part of your training. Then now, Mitchell, I say I feel within myself that the avionics is at the point of aviation maintenance. Would you agree with me on that?
I would agree. I think there's a lot of important areas in the plane, but I do think aviation is where the biggest mistakes. You lose all electrics. It's a bit of an issue.
It's a very serious issue there. But aeroplanes have more than one electrical system on the aircraft there. And,
yeah, they do.
Yes, they do. And have systems for it there. Where they have the RAT, for example.
Redundancy. But I believe this was a smaller aircraft that didn't actually have a ram air turbines.
Oh, right. So there's a very big difference between general aviation aeroplanes and airliners.
And commercial aviation, yes.
So are you glad that you've gone into an airline background rather than general aviation?
I'm glad for one reason, but I think there is a advantage to being in general aviation. I'm glad because I really like the environment I work in. I like the size of the operation. I like how it's very structured. But I believe that doing training in general aviation, you are able to learn a lot more of the intricacies, the small things that you don't really come across on these big aircraft. Well, you will come across them, but it's less. All of their avionic bay is looking a lot neater compared to say the older 135, 145 ERJs, because of the fact that all of your modules, your VHF module, nav module, even your FDR are ending up being just cards that line into a MAU, which I forget the name of. I don't know what the MAU stands for, but they just slot into the MAU like RAM into a computer.
Yeah. MAU, I should imagine, stands for Master Avionics Unit. I could be wrong, but unfortunately in aviation, that's how they talk. They really do talk in acronyms all the time, and it's actually quite difficult to keep up sometimes there. Now, did you do much on batteries in your...
Very small section in the theory.
Very small section.
But there are plans with the apprentices at Elling to be put into the battery shop for a short period to just get familiar with it. And R&D does entice me to a certain extent. I think the lack of hands-on work is what would steer me away from it, because I really do enjoy working, grabbing tools from a toolbox, doing stuff and that. I mean, my biggest gripe at the moment is all the paperwork. but I think that would be my biggest hindrance to me going into R&D, is the lack of hands-on work.
Lack of hands-on. Okay, that's really important, because some people would they've got this mind of actually wanting to get into R&D. You know, they see a problem and they think, hang on, I might have a solution for that. And I'll give, for example, MH370, which actually disappeared off this world, you know, and now we can find it. And
in Malaysia.
Malaysia, that's right. Yeah. And saying, well, why wasn't this aeroplane tracked? How can we lose an aeroplane so easily there? You know, so you know, an avionics person there might be thinking, I think I could actually develop a device for this. By the way, they have already developed a device for it there.
I'm not sure I've seen what it is, but...
Yes, they have.
No, I'm not disputing it. I'm just...
No, basically, it's a GPS that doesn't switch off. You know, it's actually impossible to switch off a device of the things that will always track the aeroplane. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Although I'm very grateful to do my apprenticeship in Airlink, I would like to move out of the country, preferably to Northern Europe, somewhere. Iceland, it would be the goal, which is quite nice because Airlink fly similar planes as to what Air Iceland does, so going with some experience would be nice. But that's where I'm hoping to be within the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay, that's interesting. You know, that I've actually mentioned in the very early episodes that aviation gives you an opportunity to travel.
Yes.
Okay, so you'd like to see yourself actually moving into Europe with your trade there, and it's fantastic that you've actually done a trade. What about licenses?
I'm not exactly sure how the avionics license work. I've heard a lot of conflicting information because I know mechanics get type rating per aircraft, but I don't believe avionics get the same thing. So I'm actually still talking with people to try and figure out the licensing of avionics. It is quite different, I believe.
Okay, now what Mitch has just said there is really, really interesting. He's talking to other people to get their advice on, to try and get guidance. Now I'm going to advise you, go to the regulation. You go to the regulation and the regulations will tell you exactly what you require for your to be able to get your licenses the next step. Interesting thing that I read on the Australian CIA website not so long ago, that the Australian Civil Aviation Authority will sponsor young men, young women, young apprentices who are coming out of the town there to be able to do their apprenticeships there, to do their licenses. And now their licenses enables you to be able to sign an aeroplane out. So wherever country you're in, go look at your regulations. Look online, you'll find your regulations, read it, and that is the fact. And that's what you will have to do, and it will teach you how to move forward in your career then. So Mitch, are you glad that you took up the trade?
I am. I often make jokes with my fellow apprentices, avionics apprentices, when we do have one of these really small jobs where we should have rather been a mechanic, where we can work with nuts like this and can't lose them. But no, I really am enjoying what I'm doing, and I am having fun and learning a lot as I go along.
Okay, what's the most interesting job that you've done so far?
I'm having a lot of fun with the FDR and FMS software.
Right.
But the most satisfying job I've ever done was I was tasked with changing a fire detection wire on an engine by myself, and I'm very proud of that one.
Yes, you were.
I'm very, very proud of that.
You actually showed me in the hangar. You were proud of that, and it's a very, very delicate piece of wire, isn't it?
Getting yelled at by, I wouldn't say getting yelled at, but sternly told, don't bend the wire.
Mitch, it's been wonderful talking to you. I thank you, and I wish you all the very, very best for your future. I hope you enjoyed the conversation I just had with this very bright young man, Mitch. If you did, hit the like and subscribe button, and until we meet again, thank you.